This past weekend was kind of a sad one for me. After over 50 years, the Prince of Darkness was retiring. And I had to think to myself as I sat there for 10 hours watching the entire Back to the Beginning concert for Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath to end their careers, to basically say a final goodbye to Ozzy Osbourne. I sat there and I thought to myself, this has made such an impact on my life. Music is such an impact to your life. It's essentially the soundtrack that plays in the background, whether you like it or not. Music is there and it is part of everything. Now, what does that have to do with the automotive industry? Everything. Music is every part of your life. It plays in the background. It's front and center, like it was with that concert. And for me, watching Ozzy sing his last song ever to people right in front of me, watching him tear up as he sang "Mama, I'm Coming Home," made me cry. Yeah, one of the few times in my life as an adult that I've cried. I can only think of a handful, but music did that to me. It caused a major emotion. And today on AutoLooks, we're going to take a look at how music and cars go together. Welcome back to the AutoLooks podcast. I am your host, as always, the doctor to the automotive industry, Mr. Everett J, coming to you from our host website at autolooks.net. If you haven't been there, stop by, check it out, read some of the reviews, check out some of the ratings, go to the Corporate Links website page. Big or small, we have them all. Car companies from around the globe, all available in one centralized location on the Corporate Links tab at the top of our website at autolooks.net. The AutoLooks podcast is brought to you by Ecom Entertainment Group and distributed by podbeam.com. If you'd like to get in touch with us, send us an email over at email@autolooks.net. So like I said in the beginning, back to the beginning. Yeah, I am a true metalhead at heart. I've always listened to metal. Hell, my first concert was going to see Black Sabbath in the early 90s. I was about 8 years old when my dad took us to go see Black Sabbath. And there was another band that opened up for them, that when their lead singer passed away a few years ago, it hit me hard. Not just because it was around Christmas time, but because he made such an impact not only on myself, but to music and to help somebody in the music industry get through. That was Lemmy Kilmister of Motorhead. Yeah, he helped Dave Grohl get through Kurt Cobain's death. So thinking about it, when Lemmy was there and seeing Dave Grohl come up and talk about Lemmy Kilmister at his funeral, I'm like, what's going on? Dave had a lot to say because Lemmy got him through. And that's what music does to us. It plays a vital part of our lives. Now, if you're one of those people that could just go for a drive in your car or even work all day without any music in the background, I don't know, that's kind of crazy to me. In the back of my mind, I always think those people are a little bit nuts because seriously, how do you not listen to anything in the background? I get it, if you're working in the middle of a shop, it's loud, it's crazy, but even still, in all of the jobs I've ever had, music has played a vital role. While working in a warehouse, working in a shop, being a driver, to now working in an office, music has always been there. And even in my own house, I put the radio on, even when I'm not here all day. I used to do that for my dog. Well, unfortunately, my dog has left, but, it's something there. When I come home and there's no music in my house, I think it's weird. It's like, what? This isn't a home. It's a silent building. Feels like it's an abandoned. And that's what music does to us. It brings us together. And if you sat there watching the Back to Beginning concert, you saw tons of different people out in that audience. From true metalheads fully done up to the next person wearing a polo shirt and khaki shorts, to somebody with pink hair, to somebody just dressed in a Miss Piggy costume. Yeah, I thought that was kind of funny. But everyone came together for one sole purpose. Music brought us together. And music is also part of the automotive industry. It brings all of us together. Gotta think about it. We've had music in automobiles nearly since the beginning. Ever since we found a way to get radios into the automobile, we have had music and we've tried to play music. And from the radio, we actually, at one point in time, made a portable record player you could plug into your car. Unfortunately, too many potholes in that throw your record player off and you could damage so many needles, it would get too expensive. And it was big and it was bulky. But then comes the 8-track tape, giving us the ability to listen to songs. Sure, it was only 8 songs, but the 8-track had an amazing feature with it. It allowed us to choose what song we wanted to play at each time. There are only 8 specific tracks there, but we can listen to each one whenever we wanted. Now, the cassette eventually caused the demise of the 8-track in an automobile, and it really really wasn't until the cassette came out into the automotive industry that music started playing more of a vital role. Now let's take a step back. Music, like we said, has always been there. We've always had radio in automobiles, going all the way back to the teen years when radios first were introduced to the automobile. It gave us the ability to listen to music wherever we were. As long as the radio transmission was able to find us, we can listen to music in our automobile. That long, boring drive would go by a lot quicker with music. And specific types of music made you feel specific ways. Now we'll get into that a little bit later on. Right now we're kind of focusing on music in our car. So you have to remember, with that, we can have the radio, we can have news. So during the days of like Bonnie and Clyde and Al Capone, they could put out warrants for people within that area. Watch out for this, special announcement. You could put it on the radio. Hell, you can create shows on the radio. How about the War of the World? Yeah, the War of the Worlds. Scared tons of people, even though it was just all made up. But it was on the radio and it sounded super realistic. But it brought us together. It caused chaos and confusion. But with some people, it created a great story. And the great thing about music back in those days is those were the early days of car chases. And, going back to my favorite show, and this comes up a lot, is The Simpsons, is when Grandpa and Homer are out selling the special tonic, the love tonic. I see you're a man that looks like he needs to please his wife. That one? And they leave the small little hick town. He's like, oh, they didn't start chasing us until you put on that music. Oh, right. And he turns it off, and it's like the banjo playing. It's chase music. From back in the early days of the automobile, we had chase music. Music that made us feel like we needed to go fast. And that's what music does to us. There are specific types of music. The louder it gets, it might make us more aggressive, might make us want to drive faster. Mellow music just makes us want to chill and cruise. I have CDs for all of this. I have cruising CDs. I have racing CDs. I have driving CDs. And I have chill CDs. Trust me, putting one of my trance CDs on while I'm driving is the worst thing because that could put me to sleep. That's not something you need. And that's one of those things you need to learn. You can't have specific types of music in vehicles, but everybody has their own select taste. Well, by the 1950s, rock and roll became more prevalent in automobiles. So we're moving away from the classical music and country music of the past. We were now getting into rock and roll. And in the 1950s, and if you listen to some of our previous podcasts about car cult movies, our cover from that one is prominently displayed in this work of art by a young director and a very young actor at the time, Mr. George Lucas and Mr. Harrison Ford. Yeah, I'm talking about American Graffiti. That movie showcases early automotive life. People cruising up and down the street, whether it was in a muscle car, a chop top lowrider, or even just that white Thunderbird with that beautiful woman that Richard Dreyfuss' character was looking for the whole night. We just wanted to cruise up and down the strip. You gotta remember, this is the early days of television, and TV went off the air at specific times. And you could just go down. You were able to drive a car and go for a cruise down on Main Street. Like Bob Seger said, down on Main Street, and go for a cruise. The music that brought all the people together. And as people put their windows down and started cranking the tunes. Gotta remember, this is the 50s. We can't choose what music we're listening to, but we could still cruise to a radio station with music that we all love. And when our specific song comes on, we crank it and roll down the window so everybody can hear it. And as we roll up next to somebody, maybe they didn't know that song's on the radio, and they're like, hey, that's a great song. And you start talking. And then they say, hey, you want to go, get a burger or something? Go chit chat. Brings people together. There's a car full of girls and a car full of guys. And this one song could just bring them together. You just jump out of your friend's car and jump into the girl's car because they love that specific type of music, and you made a connection at that short window at that red light. Music did that. It brought us together. We were able to cruise up and down the streets. Now, you have to remember, these are the early days of the automobile industry where street racing was still allowed. And police were still out in full force trying to stop us from listening to our music as loud as we want. Because, that's a no-no. And there's specific groups out there that didn't like our loud music. Rock and roll was the music of the devil. But we didn't care. We cranked it. And if you're beside somebody who's got their country cranked, and you're listening to rock and roll, they crank theirs even higher so they don't even have to listen to your music. And you crank yours higher. And eventually somebody would either yell at the other person or just roll up their windows because it's like, I don't want to listen to their crap. I want to listen to my music. And that creates the disconnect between us. But maybe, just maybe, one of those people takes a listen for a split second and realizes the music in the other car is pretty good. I like that song. Who's that? Well, that's Hank Williams. Wow, I never realized I like country. And you can be introduced to new music. For myself and my generation, the introduction of all kinds of different types of music and new bands came from a college student in California, and Napster. Oh yeah, file sharing. Now, one of my favorite bands of all time, Metallica, hated it. Like, seriously hated it. Lars created the biggest fight in the music industry against Napster to take them down because they were distributing our music for free. They were stealing it and giving it to everyone else. Meanwhile, they got their musical start from Lars making mixtapes of all the great bands he knew of back in Europe and distributed them to all the kids in the San Francisco Bay Area when they were partying. Essentially, he was doing the same thing Napster was on a different format because he was doing it in cassettes. Now, again, if you're not making money for it, it's not a business. Well, Napster wasn't making a business out of it. He can make money off of advertising, which creates profit off of what was happening. And I kind of get both sides of that story, so we're not going to really get into that. But as we move from the 50s into the 60s and 70s, by the 70s, like I said, we're getting into 8 tracks, and right at the end, we're starting into the early days of the cassette and mixtapes. And in the 80s, we get our cassettes. And with cassettes, we can now record music at home and cruise around with a dedicated set list of all of our favorite songs as loud as we want. If we want to go for a cruise, we don't have to rely on the radio playing the songs we want. Because by that time, maybe your favorite song wouldn't play on the radio. Maybe you were listening to music that never gets played. Maybe because it's the 1980s, you were listening to Black Sabbath, to Metallica, to Judas Priest, to Megadeth, to AC/DC. Or unless it's late night, like serious late night, and you live in a big enough city that it has a dedicated heavy metal or hard rock station, you can't listen to that. In my hometown, unless I was listening to the radio, our general rock station, after 11 p.m., I wouldn't even get stuff like that. Like, I'd hear Disturbed, Down with the Sickness after 11 o'clock at night, which really sucks because I wanted to listen to it during the day, but it's not a daytime general song. So I can create a cassette with our favorite songs on it and cruise in the middle of the day. You can bring your music down to the beach, open up the back doors of your awesome customized van, this amazing stereo system, and blast your music at the beach. Sure, you're going to piss some people off, but you know what? It's your music. You made the choice, and they make the choice to stay there. Remember, we're all people on this earth, and we all make our own choices, and we don't have to make everyone else around us have the same choice as us. And that's the problem a lot with society today. It's because everybody thinks that everybody else has to think that way. No, there's things called independent thinking. And as humans, music is the stuff that gives us all of our independent identities. Like I said, for myself, I'm a big heavy metal fan. But you look at my music at home, and I got stuff from funk, dance, jazz, swing and jive, blues, Celtic, classical music, classics from the early 50s, pop, rhythm and blues, reggae, hip hop, rap. I have it all. Tons and tons of music. And my massive CD collection, yes, I still collect CDs. And I have a pretty big collection of records and cassette tapes as well. I have all kinds of different formats of music. And you see, from the 80s into the late 80s and into the early 90s, CDs gave us something else. CDs allowed us to go back to what 8 tracks originally gave us, to allow us to go to the specific songs that we wanted. But the problem with CDs is we couldn't make our own custom CDs in the early days. We actually had to wait until that amazing program of Napster came out, and CD burners in our computers allowed us to rip music. I have a massive stack of custom CDs I made while I was in college, all full of music for all different things. I got the pop ones. I got my end of the year greatest hits of all the new music. I got heavy metal CDs. I got rock CDs. I got classics from the 50s. I got music with songs about high school, songs about California, songs about heaven and hell. I got love songs. I got power songs. I got techno. I got trance. I got hip hop. I got cruising the streets, and I got racing the streets. All music that creates a specific ambiance. Now, when we got that ability to change our music in our vehicles as we cruise, cassettes were great because, it allowed us to listen to all kinds of music and make our own music. And if you really want to think about the ambiance of music and how it affects us with driving, just go and watch the movie Baby Driver. The kid has to have specific songs for when he's in a chase, when he's being chased, when he's cruising around. That's a perfect example of what we're talking about in this podcast. Baby Driver. He literally just wanted music, and he needed to drown out the background noise. Humming the drum, it just needs to drown it out, right? That's all it was. So if you really want to see a part of this, just go and watch the movie Baby Driver. I originally started out when I was 7 years old in 1989, making a greatest hits at the end of every year from, all kinds of new CDs and that we bought throughout the year. I would make a compilation tape called Good Mix. And I did that for over 20 years. I actually had to stop doing that because I started getting into making them on CDs, but I had to get out of that because all of the audio protection on it made it harder and harder to get music and rip music to make my end of year CDs. And eventually, with having kids, I just kind of gave up on it. Over 20 years, I made my own mix of great songs that I loved. And like I said, in college, I made all those special CDs. The first one I made was actually one of the first custom tapes that I specifically made. I went out and got all kinds of CDs to make this ultimate tape of cruising song. Like Radar Love, Green Onions, hell, even the song And You by Edwin, Got the Life by Korn, like songs that make you want to go fast or cruise the streets. The best songs for driving to. But no, I don't have the actual best song. One of the best songs of all time that people say they love to sing and listen to in their car is by none other than a Canadian artist, Bryan Adams, Summer of 69. Oh yeah, they can get anybody singing, and tons of people say that's a perfect song for a road trip. And it is. But you see, when I used to go out in my old days, like everyone else, you go cruise at nighttime. I wanted my music. And if I'm just cruising downtown nice and slow, I want to put my windows down and I want something with good bass. Back in those days, put a little Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, and some Eminem on, and rap and hip hop was great music for cruising around the streets. Come on, Still Dre, to this day, is the ultimate cruising song for myself. It gives me that feel of I just want to be in a 64 Impala lowrider cruising around downtown with my friends. Just have that song blaring for everybody to hear. Because man, it's just the ultimate song for cruising. And yeah, I got to give a shout out to Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg for that. You have to remember, I sat and watched the entire back to the beginning for Ozzy Osbourne because he's the Prince of Darkness. And heavy metal is such a big part of my life, and yet I'm still listening to Dr. Dre and Snoop when I'm cruising around. Come the summertime, when I have to put my windows down on my vehicle, I start getting into music like that. A lot more bass. So I get into my techno phase. Listen to Daft Punk or Darude or, even Eiffel 65 from back in the day. Good bass pumping music that can get people dancing, get people moving. But then I also have my cruising songs. And one of my favorite songs on there is from the early days of Dre, from NWA. And you probably know what song it is. Yeah, we're going to say it. Fuck the Police. Okay. My greatest story about cruising around with this once is I had that song blaring on my stereo as I'm sitting at a traffic light and a cop comes up next to me. Now, most people thinking it's like, oh shit, my windows are down. This thing's cranked to 30 in my car so everyone around can hear me. My back window is bouncing around. My mirror on my front windshield is literally, I could see the whole thing shaking. Everybody can hear and feel my music. And the cop just puts his window down, looks at me and goes, just gives me the good nod. It's like, yeah. Puts his window up, goes to the cop station. I'm like, okay, cool. He knows cool music. He likes it. Maybe he took down on my plate, but I never got a ticket or anything. But maybe that officer liked that song, grew up loving that song, even though they became a cop. They understood what that song was about. It basically wasn't about, trying to beat up the police or, rising up against them. It was basically calling them out for their inactions against people. Specific group of people at that point in time, but literally treating them like garbage when they didn't do anything. It was a statement. And a lot of music does that. Cruising around, you want cool stuff like that. Now from there, late at night, just like everyone else back in the old days, everyone went out racing, right? Go out street racing. Well, not everyone in the world. I know some people that think it's stupid and dumb, but those are not car related people. Those are people that think a car is made to go from point A to point B. That is it. Also the same people that drive around in an automobile with no music on too. So, ooh, psycho. No, so I had music to go racing to, and it was either, high endurance speed metal or techno. Because seriously, techno music is really good for racing. And I had the game Tokyo Extreme Racer for my Dreamcast, and I found a way to rip those songs and put them on my original cruising tape so I could listen to them. And they were amazing. It was techno, but still, go back and listen to Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. Slash is part of a techno song in that. Technically dance music. Mustang Nismo. That's Slash with the guitar, but it's still synthesized and created music on a computer in the background. And yet, when you hear that, you could see that car and it just makes you want to sit a light. There's this specific Slipknot songs. I used to keep, I can't remember what the name of the album is off the top of my head right now, but the one with Vermilion on it, there's one of the songs songs on that CD I used to use as my ultimate street racing scene. I used to be able to put the song on. It has such a long intro that the light would almost change at the perfect moment when I'm like, go! Yeah, and you just hit it and take off. I had powerful music like that. Hell, I even get my son pumped up when he goes go-kart racing with specific music like this. I'm like, what music makes you feel powerful and want to get out there and race? What gives you that adrenaline and drive? You know, for some people, it might be pop music. For others, it might be blues. For myself, it's heavy metal. I don't know about you, but like, you know, being a metalhead, I can't get all riled up, pumped up for a good race by listening to like Backstreet Boys or Taylor Swift, okay? No, that doesn't get me riled up. Even though it's talking about some of these breakups and, you know, being pissed off at people. But no, I need powerful music. I need Slipknot. I need Judas Priest. I need Metallica's Master of Puppets. You want the ultimate racing CD, the ultimate workout CD, Master of Puppets. Hell, for myself back in the day when I used to go to the gym, my workout CD was Philadelphia by Lamb of God, their special live one from Philadelphia, the Philadelphia album. And I really wasn't into like a lot of death metal, black metal back in those days, but Lamb of God I kind of got into, and I saw them live in concert before they opened up for Pantera. Well, not like the full Pantera. Zakk Wylde Pantera that exists now, but I learned that their music is it's just as powerful live, and that's what music does. And like when you're out cruising around, it gives you all those different feelings. You can have just your standard background music, you know, listen to cool, you know, rock and roll as you're cruising around. You get your lowrider hip hop and rap as you cruise in the streets nice and slow, cruising for some ladies. Well, myself, you know, back in the day, cruising for some ladies. You get your metal, you get your rock. I remember hearing from my uncle when Hotel California came out, when that song came on the radio, when people were cruising around downtown Sudbury, anybody who liked rock and roll, that song was cranked, and that's all you can hear downtown for the entire duration of that song was Hotel California blaring from everyone's radio. And when it was done, some people would go and park and just chit chat. Oh, I never knew you loved that song. You know, it brought these people together. Music does that. And like this past weekend in my home city was one of our biggest music festivals as well. And it's not like all the music that I love, but it still brings all kinds of people together. And when we put that music into our automobiles, it could bring people together. You could pick up friends, drive them around, and they can learn about new music they never heard about. It could bring back old memories. For me, if I had $1 million, brings back the memory of the year my mom literally walked out on us. I can go back and see myself just hanging out with my uncle and my cousin, because my uncle wanted to take care of my dad and make sure he was all good with somebody literally just walking out on us. That song does that to me. And that song comes on the radio, you know, I can feel it. It creates emotion and a memory. But that's what music does. That's what Black Sabbath and Ozzy did for me. I cried at Mama, I'm Coming Home. Even though I don't sing that song anymore because I don't talk to my mom, I still tear up because that song played a big memory of my life. My best friend who moved out to Calgary years and years ago, you know, we were big fans of Ozzy and Black Sabbath together, and it brought us together. It brought back old memories. One of those songs comes on the radio when I'm, you know, cruising around in town, and I might just crank it and sing along to it. And that's the other thing that music brings. You can be sitting in your car, not realizing that your windows are down, and you could be singing in the top of your lungs to your favorite song. People might give you a stare. Some people might clap. Some people might put up their windows because they want to hear you sing. And other people might just say, hey, that was great. Or maybe they look over and go, you got an amazing voice. The automobile and music go together. Music isn't just made for listening to in a vehicle. It's not made for promoting vehicles. Music is made for specific purposes of vehicles. There are some songs out there that give us that feeling. Songs about specific cars. Songs about specific roads. Hell, Summer 69 is about a guy reliving his past, his greatest summer. Now, funny thing for myself is my greatest summer of my life was the summer of 1999. So when I sing that song, I sing the summer of 99. You know, the last great summer of my life with all of my childhood friends. Some of them I never saw again since then. Some of them we lost touch with. But that summer was the last great summer. It's not a song about driving. It's not a song about racing. But when it's in the car, everybody sings along to it. And everybody has their own emotion that goes with it. Music is part of the automotive industry. We all love it. And we all love to listen to music in our vehicles, unless you're one of those weird, crazy people. We all have our own taste. Not everybody will go out. And one specific way you can find out about everybody's different taste while they're driving is the video game Grand Theft Auto. Because listen to all the different radio stations they put in there. They have the dance, they have the pop, they have the rock, they have the rap, they even have classical stations. They don't have a metal station. Kind of pisses me off. Really need a metal station for Grand Theft Auto 6. You listen in Rockstar, metal station. We want Black Sabbath, we want Ozzy, we want Lamb of God. Come on, reach out to some of those guys and make a metal station for Grand Theft Auto 6. Because someone like me, I kind of want that. The rock station kind of gave some of it to us with Guns N' Roses, but we want a little bit more. But like cruising around, what's it like when you get an NWA song and you're cruising around, even on Grand Theft Auto? You're playing a video game, driving a song, and it gives you a completely different perspective of driving. It's standard just background music, but specific song comes on. You go a little bit faster. You'll be crazy, do donuts. Hell, you might want to just get out on the highway and go as fast as possible. And songs do that for you. The embodiment of our soul. They bring something out in us. Music is just a part of the automobile. Now, I get it. Like professional racers and all that out there, we really don't get to listen to music as we race. But some of us, if you really want to get us into the zone, we'll listen to music before we go out to the track. To have that song playing in our memory bank as we're racing, when our greatest foe passes us, we put that song on to get back into the zone, to catch up and win. Music does that. And with so many different genres of music, whatever music you love is the right music for you. You could tell me that someone like Taylor Swift is the biggest thing in the world. They sell out like crazy. But when Black Sabbath stated that they wanted to do their final concert, 16 minutes is all it took to sell out 40,000 seats. That tells me one thing. There's a lot of metalheads out there still. Every musical genre could sell out. Steve Aoki can sell out for techno stadiums. Metallica could sell out for heavy metal. Taylor Swift can sell out for pop and pop country. They all give us this feeling. They're all the different embodiment of different parts of us. And when we listen to them in our car, it gives us a relaxed state. It makes us happy. It makes us forget about everything else. And we can just focus on driving. Because that's why we need the background music and the right background music for the specific time. When your favorite song comes on the radio when you're driving, you can get lost in it. It puts you in a relaxed state and you can drive properly. Things don't bother you as much because that's the music you love. And all kinds of different types of music do that for everyone else. For myself, like I said, went back to the beginning and watched Ozzy's last show. I teared up, I cried, I laughed, I got annoyed, and I loved it. 10 hours on the couch watching the whole thing. But it was well worth it. It's not for everybody, but to see it. How many people out there watched the Taylor Swift show online because they couldn't make it to the show? How many of them will sing and belt it out in their car after a hard day? You have a shit day, you put music on, go for a drive. Driving calms you down and the song calms you down. And the two of them work together to make you better. So music, it's not just something in the background. It's something that goes together with driving. If we learn one thing from having a radio in our car, is that music and cars go together, just like butter and bread, spaghetti and meatball, and things like that. Anything you say, music is all right. So if you like this podcast, please like, share, or comment about it on any of the major social feeds or streaming sites that you found the AutoLooks podcast on. Click the bottom, like us, share us, tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone else. Ask them about what their favorite music they like to listen to. And if you're young, you're living at home, and you got to sit through your parents' crappy music, tell them maybe that trip you wouldn't complain so much if you put your music on instead of having to listen to their music all the time. Trust me, my dad learned so many different bands, and he even got into a few different bands because of my brother and I putting music on our long trips. My dad learned about the Tea Party and Metallica all because of my brother and I. He got into those bands and he liked their music. Hell, he even able to say that Nirvana is a generational band like the Beatles, and there's specific songs that still make him feel like he's got to go a little bit faster. So like us, share us, comment about us, follow us to find out more, because we're going to be doing some more podcasts about the musical industry and how it affects the automobile industry, like cruising culture, songs about cars, songs about streets, songs to race to. We got these podcasts all in the back burner that eventually going to be coming out over the next few seasons. So stay tuned and keep us there. So click the like button and follow the AutoLooks podcast. And after you've done that, stop by the website, read some of the reviews, check out some of the ratings, go to the Carpet Links website page, big or small. We have them all, car companies from around the globe, all available on the autolooks.net website. The AutoLooks podcast is brought to you by Ecom Entertainment Group and distributed by Podbeam.com. autolooks.com. If you'd like to get in touch with us, send us an email over at email@autolooks.net. So for myself, Everett J., the host and owner of the AutoLooks podcast and autolooks.net website, podbeam.com, and Ecom Entertainment Group, strap yourself in for this one emotional ride the music in your car is going to take you on.